Hello friends, and welcome to another day of Crochet and Crime. My name is Hazy Baby, and this is my channel where I crochet while talking about crime, specifically Australian crime, although I do tend to talk about other crimes as well. I mean, I'm not saying crochet and do crime, it's more like crochet and talk about crime. Anyway, so without further ado, it is finally Tuesday. I hate Mondays. So Monday yesterday, I was all like, nah, I don't want to do any channel today. And so today I'm like, it is Tuesday. My life has begun and I can do things. Again, welcome to the ADHD brain where, I wrote a list. I thought, yeah, so good. I can do this list. And then I didn't do the list. So I wrote another list today, and let's get this list done. Anyway, if you're new to my channel, please head on over and like and subscribe. Without further ado, let's go. Okie dokie. So I finally am sitting down doing a video after I took Sunday off, and then I also had yesterday off, but don't worry, I'll catch up on those videos. What I am making today is I am making my sister... she has commissioned me, I'm not making my sister, but my sister has commissioned me to make her some t-shirts or some tops, if you will. And I've already made her one. This is the second one that I'm making her. The other one that I made her is in purple. And it's absolutely pretty cute. I mean, I'm in love with it. I hope she will be too. So that's it there. Isn't it gorgeous? And it even has a corset back because I'm fancy. That's what I do. So yeah, I'm going into making some knitted and crocheted tops. So my sister is helping me out with that by ordering a bunch. If you'd like to order some, you can also do so. I'm gonna be opening an Etsy store. I know I keep saying that, but I actually will be doing that this week. I will be opening up the Etsy store and I will be starting it. So before I get further onto any of that. So yeah, this is just the top that I'm currently making her, and yeah. Alrighty, so let's get into this. Today is the 30th of May, 2023. It is a Tuesday. It's my first video for the day. I'll be trying to do 2 today as I missed out yesterday, and I really have to do that missing person Monday since I missed it last week as well. I'm finding Monday really difficult to get motivated because usually I clean all day Monday. You know, family's home all weekend long. I tend to make a little bit of a mess, so I spend the whole time cleaning, and I have OCD problems, so it has to be absolutely pristine clean, which is ridiculous because the rest of some parts of my house, I'm just like, yeah, whatever, I don't care. But some parts of my house, I'm also like, this has to be perfect, and it's not. Okie dokie, so let's just move on because that was a bit of a ramble for you guys today. And I have my first story is out of the Northern Territory here in Australia. A child is in hospital after allegedly being assaulted by a man at Tennant Creek. So let me tell you a little bit more about that. So a man has been charged after he allegedly assaulted a child in Tennant Creek in Northern Territory yesterday. So police said the 26-year-old was intoxicated when he assaulted the child using a blunt weapon. Child suffered serious injuries and was taken by the Royal Flying Doctor Service in Adelaide to Adelaide's Women and Children's Hospital. Also, I just want to say, good job, guys. I think the Royal Flying Doctor Service is an amazing service that we have here in Australia. So if you have a little bit of money, and if you would like to support them, because they're run by pretty much, they run off government grants and, volunteers and whatnot. If you can support them, please go do that because it's not hard. They have raffles and stuff that go on. But I know that they are sometimes the difference between life and death, especially for rural communities. This is so good. So the man will appear in court in Alice Springs tomorrow, and he is charged with serious bodily harm. Thankfully, the child is in a stable but okay condition. Not happy, but, stable, so that's good. And yeah, that's all the information I have on that one. So that was a nice little quick story for you guys today. Okay, if you're wondering why I'm doing this, it's called a cluster stitch. And this is the back of the work because I'm going backwards and forwards. So I'm going to be adding, it's going to be adjustable. That's why I don't go all the way in around. I like to make it adjustable because if you're a woman, you know that during a certain time of the month you have bigger bubbas than you do and other times, and sometimes you want your clothes to be tighter and sometimes you want them to be looser. So that's why I try and make them as adjustable as possible. Alrighty, so this next story is out of England, and it's another story regarding a child, so please be forewarned that this one has a little bit more graphic detail in it and is obviously about a child, like I said, so try and not be too upsetty spaghetti, and if you can't handle that kind of stuff, then you know what you can do. You can just mute me for a little bit. This is not a long story either, so... But yeah, let's without further ado talk about this English couple who fought to get their baby son back from child services and then abused him so severely that the 10-month-old was died just after a month. They were sentenced to life in prison for the murder of that child on Friday in what the judge described as a case of unimaginable cruelty. So the child was originally taken away from them, and then they fought tooth and nail to get the child back. And then once they got the child back, they murdered the child. They killed the child. So Stephen Bowden, 30, and Shannon Marsden, 22, showed no emotion when they were at the family court. Everybody else, all the other family members, were weeping and gasping in the gallery when their sentence was handed down in the Derby Crown Court. Finley Bowden, who the judge had said had been loving, happy, smiling baby, died on Christmas Day in 2020. The final weeks of his life were hell based on his catalogues of injuries. He had an accumulative 57 bone fractures, 71 bruises and burns on his hand, including one that probably was caused by a cigarette lighter. What the fuck? They acted together to inflict all of his injuries, and then they hid him away and allowed him to die in such an awful way, a relative wrote in a statement read to the prosecutor. I can only describe you both as monsters for what you have done. And the amount of people who want babies, like who would have gladly taken that child away and loved that child, is ridiculous. And I think these people are just absolutely sadist. Disgusting. The boy had been taken from the marijuana smoking couple soon after he was born in February of 2020 because social workers said that he faced significant harm in their, squandered pretty much home. Their house was like a squalor, basically, in Chesterfield. And Bowden had a domestic violence conviction, according to court records, so they took the child away. As part of their plea to the family court to return the boy, Bowden described the tot as perfect, and Marsden said that he was cuddly, chunky munchkin. Oh, and he was, guys. There's a picture of him on here. He's so cute. The court decided to allow him to be returned on a part-time basis and eventually a full-time. There had been a disagreement between the local social work authority that wanted a slower transition and the guardian, who wanted the parents to get full custody sooner. So basically the guardian was like, I would like this to be rectified sooner rather than later. And I think the guardian was just trying to do the whole, like, if I have to give this child back, I'd rather give this child back now rather than becoming, feeling like this child is mine. And which is the reason why I don't foster, because I just get too attached. I used to work in childcare, in disabilities childcare, and I just get so attached. I get so attached to the children. I just want to take them all home. They wanted the couple wanted the boy returned promptly, and they assured the court in a statement that they had worked really hard to make changes. Obviously, they hadn't. Bowden's lawyer, Simon Kenley, said that there was no sadistic motivation for the murder. I would argue otherwise. This is not a case in which the parents had sought to return for Finley in order to carry out his killing. Kind of feels like it was to me. The underlying motivation was to reunite the family. Okay. But once home, the prosecutor said the boy was subjected to vicious and repeated assaults that ultimately led to his savage and prolonged murder. His fractures led to infections, including pneumonia and sepsis, and they both proved to be fatal. Now, if you've ever had pneumonia, it is absolutely horrible, and if you've ever seen anyone with sepsis, it's a terrible way to die. It's a horrible, horrible way to die. It's so painful. Oh my God. So, unlike the photos shown to the court, a tidy house when the couple were seeking custody, jurors at the trial in April were shown images of a home in full clutter, marijuana paraphernalia, which is neither here nor there, guys. Just because someone's a pothead doesn't mean they're criminal. A spoiled baby formula, as in out-of-date baby formula. When Finley died, the baby's clothes were covered in saliva and feces. So he was literally lying in his own shit. Even as they could see that he was suffering, his parents did nothing to help him. The two even kept social workers at bay by saying that they had COVID-19. And that just wasn't true. Justice Amanda Tipples called them persuasive and accomplished liars, which I agree. Both knew that Finley was seriously ill and dying, Triples said, yet you deliberately failed to seek any medical help for him, and you made sure that he did not seek any medical help or rescue so that he could be taken away from your care. And that's all I have to say about those people, and I'm so glad that they got convicted. But how disgusting is that, guys, that they had their child taken away from them, and then when they got him back, they abused him. And they abused him to the point where, like, you know, how many broken bones? 50-something broken bones? That poor child. His last days on earth is just shocking. I don't know how anyone could do that to a baby. Anyone could do that to anyone, but let alone a baby. Anyway, some people are just sick. Oops, I almost went to cut that off. I don't need to cut it, I need to flip it. I'm going flying down, flip it and reverse it. Oh, quick tip. So when you're working with work, if you with crochet, when you flip it, instead of just going straight back in, you can do a standing stitch. So what I do is I pull it through there, lift it up, and that's a standing half double because it's got the two. And then you just work into the next one. And you won't have a nice big gap then when you go back around. See? Because if you have a look at those ones, there's no gap. Hot tip from Hayley. You're welcome. From Hazy Baby. Okay, let's move back to Australia and let's talk about some stuff. Okie dokie. So we're talking about a completely evil man, apparently, who murdered his ex-girlfriend and stuffed her body in a bag. But guess what? He gets to walk free. Of course he does. So convicted killer William Harold Matheson has been released on parole after spending nearly 20 years behind bars for murdering his ex-girlfriend and shoving her body into a cricket bag. Yep. In 2006, he was sentenced to 25 years in jail with a non-parole period of 18 years for brutally strangling his ex-girlfriend, Lindsay Van Blaken, to death. He was refused his first parole in 2022, but his second was approved earlier this month before being released today. So he's actually been released today. So he was approached during his first day of freedom since being behind bars, but refused to answer any questions, which I totally get. I mean, he's apparently done his crime and paid his time, which I think is bullshit. But anyway, he strangled Van Berken to death in 2003, and she was just 18 years old. 6 weeks later, her body was discovered in a residential apartment block in Sydney's eastern suburbs after residents complained of a foul smell coming from the building. So he disposed of her in a cricket bag. He literally strangled her, put her in a cricket bag, and then left her in the house. He stuffed her 18-year-old body inside a cricket bag and dumped it in a storage room in the Coogee apartment complex. He decided if he couldn't have her, then no one else could. Typical. She added that the way it was described, she described him to others as a monster, and I think he is completely evil, and I agree. He has no conscience, and he has no feelings, and apparently he's smart, which is a really deadly combo, clearly, and I think the prosecutor is worried that he will repeat. He will repeat offend, which is scary. Really, really scary. So while on parole, the convicted killer will be monitored 24 hours a day while he lives with his parents in a Randwick home, and I really hope that the neighbourhood gets to know that he's living there. Matheson is banned from contacting the victim's family in any form and must comply with psychiatric medication and treatment. He's also prohibited from visiting the shire in which he did these crimes and the Cross Harbour local government areas. So they've actually banned him from parts of Australia. I should ban him from just the planet. I don't believe in the death penalty, but I do believe that people should be left behind bars to rot forever. I was like, oh yeah, it's so expensive. Yeah, I know it's expensive, but I'd rather they be where I know where they are. Put them all together. What do you get? Who are they going to hurt? Other criminals? It's fine by me. Okay, let's move on now. So I'm going to go back to the US. Sorry, not even back to the US. I was talking about British before. So this time I've got a US story about some terrible parents. So US parents have been charged after 7 kids were found in a rancid home with rats and a padlocked fridge. Oh, why do they always do this? So police arrested 2 US parents after finding their 7 children living in unsanitary and unsafe conditions. Disgusting. Including caged rats and feces. They caged the rats on a Pennsylvania home floor. So authorities responded to reports that on April 23rd of 3 children entering an abandoned trailer in West Rock Hill Township, which is 64 kilometers north of Philadelphia. According to the police, an affidavit had been filed on May 19th. When the police found the children, they spoke with the parents and returned them to the home next to the abandoned trailer. Okay. The 3 officers observed a deplorable living conditions and a refrigerator secured with a padlock. And anyone want to guess where the key was? Around the mum's neck. The mother, Crystal Robinson, told the police that she had to lock the refrigerator because the children were stealing everything. Ridiculous. She referred to the children as garbage disposals with legs. Why fucking have 7 kids? I don't get it. I honestly don't get it. I'm one of 7, but I still don't get it. When officers later returned to the home after filing a report to Bucks County Children, Youth and Social Services Agency, they discovered 4 more children inside. The children were aged 4 to 16. One of the rooms had approximately 2 dozens of rats in cages, according to the affidavit. Ridiculous. Feces were found on the floor in another area of the home. Ew, disgusting. There's also a bad odor and several bugs. Gross. It was noted that 2 dogs, 2 turtles, 2 rabbits, snakes, toads, and a 4-foot or 1.2 meter reptile were also in the home. Jesus. None of the children had been formally educated and lacked basic knowledge, police had said. Some didn't know their own birth dates, and 4 suffered from speech impediments because they only had each other to interact with. The children were taken into protective custody and transported to a hospital and medical treatment because they probably have frickin' sepsis, the amount of diseases and stuff around. The later investigation revealed that none of the 7 children had ever attended any kind of school, and they weren't on any kind of birth record, so they must have, birthed them at home. They also exhibited social anxiety and an inability to talk with others. Authorities said that medical evaluations concluded the children were clinically underweight and definitely malnourished. Personal hygiene of the children was concerning, resulting in 2 of the children having shaved their heads due to severe matting and lice infections. Disgusting. The father, Shane William Robertson, and mother were charged with 7 felony counts each of endangering the welfare of children, according to the release that I am reading. Both posted a requested 10% of the $10,000 bail amount, police had said. Where the fuck did they get $20,000 from? Let me get this straight. They lived in a dilapidated building. They didn't take their kids to school. Their kids weren't registered by the government. They were living in a, freaking broken home. They had all these animals. They didn't have jobs. Where the hell did they get $20,000 for the bail? Jesus. Worst parents ever. It still makes me so sad that we still have people like this in the world. How is that possible? How in this day and age do we still have people like this? Why aren't we getting better? Why is humanity still so fucking shit? Why is everyone so shit? Alrighty, let's move on. Now I'm going to go to Greece. Why not? It's part of Australia though, but yeah. So Greek nationals arrested in an alleged rip-on, rip-off cocaine container bust at Port Botany, which is here in Australia, in New South Wales. So it's a little bit of and a little bit of So 2 Greek nationals have been arrested in Sydney after police allegedly found 120 kilos of cocaine worth about $60 million. I'll have that money, please. Hidden inside a shipping container. The men allegedly wanted to break into it. The pair of Athenians, I don't think that's how it's spelled, who spoke well English, apparently, but these people can't write English, were allegedly the onshore crew of a rip-on, rip-off drug smuggling operation that went wrong, police had said. So please... oh, sorry, I just swallowed my own breath. I mean, you're supposed to swallow your own breath into your lungs. I swallowed it into my stomach, apparently. Police alleged that they found 121 kilo bricks of cocaine after they had responded to reports of a break-in at a logistics company at Port Botany near Sydney's primary wharf operation. Look, I'm not saying that all wharfs have cocaine at them, but I am saying a lot of the stories I read start with that. So officers arrested a 27-year-old man at the container holding yard while a 19-year-old allegedly fled. So specialist cops, I don't know what they are, but apparently they're specialists of the investigation under Strike Force Biles, found the drugs and with the help from the Australian Border Police. Look, the Australian Border Patrol Police, they're freaking, you don't fuck with them, man. They'll fuck you up. So the drugs allegedly were found stalled in the walls within the shipping container and had, like I said, the street value of about $60 million. Strike Force Biles was set up to investigate the large-scale supply of illicit drugs that had been using in a rip-on, rip-off methodology. So, with this system, the trackers piggyback drug consignments inside shipping containers being used by legitimate companies who have no idea what's taking place. So basically, a legitimate company ships something to Australia, for example, say from Athens, and then the drug cartel or whoever is running it decides to hide drugs inside the walls of the shipping container or inside the shipment itself without the knowledge of the people who have shipped the items. So they have nothing to do with it. So Detective Acting Superintendent Matthew Kennedy said police were now investigating how the Greeks were allegedly linked to the criminal syndicates and the underworld figures in Sydney. Look, I'm a writer as well as a crocheter. I do crochet as my art and writing as also my art. So, you know, if you're a part of the underworld and you would like for me to write about you in a spicy novel, yeah, hit me up. I want to talk to you. Okay, so we believe that they have only been in the country for a very, very, very short time, Kennedy said. Apparently he likes the word very. The containers had originated from Italy, he said. Kennedy, sorry, it's me, Mario. Kennedy said that the criminal organizations will compartmentalize their operations to protect syndicate leadership, which, you know, that makes sense. They're always trying to distance themselves as much as they can, which is fair. They always try and push it off. Detectives executed search warrants at 3 units across, Sydney on Friday, where they allegedly found crowbars, breaking tools, gloves, bags, and other items. During the search of the unit, police arrested the 19-year-old who allegedly fled the logistics yard where the container was being held. He was charged with the intent to commit indictable offences, large commercial supply of prohibited drugs, and attempted to possess of commercial quantity of border restriction drugs. The other man, the older man, a 27-year-old, was charged with entering an enclosed lands, assault occasioning actual bodily harm, and malicious damage. He was refused bail and is scheduled to appear in the Waverley local court on June 13th. So basically what they do is someone somewhere else puts the drugs in the shipping containers. These guys know that their drugs are in there. They're the only ones who do know the drugs are in there. And they break into these shipping places because usually it's got nothing to do with the shipping companies either. And then they break into those shipping containers, take the drugs and sometimes the items on the inside, most of the time not. And then they feck off basically. So police have gotten caught onto this, and that's why it's called rip on, rip off. And they're trying to target not the senders, but obviously the people who packed the containers, and then the big wigs and the dudes who are doing all of the hard work. They keep getting all the little fish, and I think they're trying to catch all the big fish, but they can't because, like I said, they distance themselves from that kind of criminal activity. I hope you guys didn't see that then, because I was a bit off screen, I think. I was like up here. Anyway. Anywho. Okay, I got one more layer of black to go. This one. Start in the corner. Start in the corner. Out in the street. And then from before we saw, I'm just going to come into the top here. Just like we did. Just like we normally would. I'll break that off. Shink and shink. Turn it around. So the 19-year-old was also refused bail, and he will appear in a local court on July 20th. So if organised crime want to do this, they will continue to do this rip on, rip off. They're going to get caught, Kennedy said, and they will get caught, but it's worth it. If you think about it, they found one shipping container with $60 million worth of cocaine in it. Okay, that's the one container they found. So I wonder how many containers have gone through beforehand and how many containers have been, how much drugs have come into this country and other countries through this sort of schemy thing. I don't know, but I'm guessing it's a lot. Otherwise, why would they bother? You wouldn't continue to keep doing the thing if you're just going to keep getting a loss. And also, you wouldn't put $60 million worth of product into a shipping container and go to all of that effort, if that was all your eggs you wouldn't put in one basket, if you will. But anyway, I'm not a criminal mastermind. I am literally just a writer, and when it comes to writing, it has to be logical, otherwise it doesn't make any sense. And so it's just not logical that you would just put one shipment container of $60 million. That might even be one of the smaller hoards if you think about it. We don't know. And we'll never know because we're not criminals. Anyway, let's move on to a different story now. And now I'm going to go and talk about a cold case. So police are offering a $500,000 reward in a cold case murder of a loving father in Sydney. So a $500,000 reward, or $500,000, has been posted for information that will help solve a 13-year-old murder in Sydney's West. So at about 10:15 p.m. on Saturday, February 6th, 2010, emergency services were called to a home in Glenmore Park after reports of a gunshot. A 42-year-old man had died at the scene. He has since been identified as Paul Stragio. I hope I said that correctly. And a $500,000 reward has now been announced for information that leads to the arrest and conviction of the killer or anyone else who is responsible. So Paul Stragario's brother, Julian, said that he hoped the reward would help hold those responsible to an account. Paul was a loving father and a much-loved member of our family who didn't deserve that to happen to him, Julian said. After 13 years, we're hoping this incentive will encourage people to come forward with information. Detectives need to ultimately find justice for our brother Paul. Detective Acting Superintendent Virginia Gorman said they hadn't given up finding whoever's involved for Stragario's death. Anyway, the public are reminded that there is no piece of information too small for investigators. Your tip could be the missing piece of the puzzle in this investigation. So anyone who has any information or thinks they have any information is urged to contact the Strike Force Goodyear via Crime Stoppers on 1-800-333-000. Or online. You can do it online too. And you can do it anonymously, but if you want a $500,000, I'm going to guess you're going to have to not do it anonymously. But anyway, that's just my guess. Okie dokie, let's move on. That was a quick one. Okay, so I'm going to go to scamming, as we all know how much I love to talk about scamming, but this one is a spike in scams targeting Australians selling items online. So you have to be really careful, guys. I'm so glad. So people selling unwanted or used items on websites such as Facebook Marketplace and Gumtree are at an increased risk of being targeted by scammers. The warning comes after the National Australian Bank, or the NAB, released new customer data today showing goods and services scams have increased by 66% in the past 3 months. So a third of those reports involve criminals trying to exploit PayID, a free service which uses your mobile number, email address, or ABN to send and receive money. So they're getting reports of people saying that they sold an old TV or a fridge online and being inundated with identical messages from scammers waiting for purchase the item with PayID. So the NAB Executive Group investigation said scammers have released online marketplace, which can be an easy way to rip people off. He said the biggest scam red flags was that if someone asked you for money to upgrade access to PayID, that is a lie because the service is free. There's never been any charges related to PayID because it's connected to the actual bank account. It's important to remember that PayID will never, ever send you an email, text, or message directly to your bank registrar. They will never contact you, basically, is what they're trying to say. Okay, so how to spot... Australians lost, $260,000 to PayID impersonation scams last year, according to ScamWatch. So how to spot the scam? The NAB said that the scammers would push to buy your item using PayID and claim your transaction couldn't be completed because you didn't have a business account, which is not true. They then claim that they sent extra money to upgrade the account and send a fake email as evidence and pressure you to reimburse them of the money, but no money will ever appear in your account. And that's easy for you to see, by the way. You just go into your own account, have a look at your transaction history. PayID is instant, so if they did put money in your account, you would be able to tell. You would be able to see it straight away. So NAB is advising that PayID use that service will never need to send money to receive a PayID payment. You will need to take additional actions like upgrading an account to receive funds into your account, but you will never receive communication directly from PayID via email, text, or message, as the payment method is managed by your bank. So it goes under the same legislation as bank does. It has the same regulations and the same legislations that banks do. So therefore, they're not going to just cold call email you guys. It's not happening. And that's it. That's it for that one. Let's move on to some more theft. So a woman allegedly stole a $42,000 car from a Melbourne dealership. So police are searching for a woman who allegedly used a fake identity to steal a $42,000 VW Golf from a dealership in Melbourne's north. She allegedly used a modified driver's license and a stolen identity details to buy the car on finance at the dealership in Bundoora after about 10:30 on May 4th. The stolen identity has been used to make disaster relief claims and multiple other applications for finance, police allege. So I feel so sorry for this person's stolen identity. This woman is described as approximately 35 to 45. She looks more 45 than 35, just saying. With long brown hair and dyed blonde streaks. So that typical really gross 90s freaking hairdo. Or extensions, they don't really know. She's wearing black high heels, a black dress skirt, a black overcoat. So she's trying to look really businessy. Fur-lined hood, and she has an ID lanyard around her neck. So anyone with any kind of information, please contact police. But like I said, she sounds like she's a scammer and she knows how to scam. I mean, she's dressed to impress for a reason, and obviously that reason is to thieve, to live, to die. But yeah, obviously her plan is to be a thief. That's so pretty. I can't wait for my sister to be wearing these. Show all these pictures off. Anyway, let's move on. So police are hunting suspects who torched a Sydney restaurant and bashed the owner with a bat. So police hope that CCTV footage will help them hunt down a group of suspects who set a Sydney restaurant on fire and beat up the owner with a baseball bat. So just released footage of the January 4th arson attacks shows two men arriving in a stolen black BMW at the restaurant in Strathfield in Sydney's inner west. They walk briskly towards the restaurant and set off a large fireball which caused severe damage to the business located on the boulevard. Police found the stolen car on the Enfield soon after 3 a.m. after the attack, so they dumped the car. 1 week earlier, 3 men assaulted the owner in the underground car park of the Northcote Street in Mottdale, hammering him with a baseball bat. They then attacked around 9:45 p.m. on December 29th and put the man in hospital with some severe injuries. Detectives said that they're treating the assault and fire as linked. Police said there's a number of those who have been involved in the attack could have ties to organised crime syndicates. I wonder what gave that away. Maybe because they beat him up with a baseball bat, and then a week later, because he didn't pay them, they blew up his restaurant. So, yeah, Soprano styles. Yeah, I'm sure it's not organised crime. They're also urging anyone with any information to come forward. Well, if it is organised crime, no one's coming forward. Just saying. So, in the words of one of my favourite movies, tell him he's dreaming. Because no one's going to be snitching. Because snitches get stitches. Actually, snitches die. Convicted killer Chris Dawson faces trial over an alleged student relationship, apparently. So, a trial for a convicted wife killer and former teacher and rugby league player Chris Dawson will begin examining his alleged relationship with one of his students. Ugh, gross, man. Dawson is on trial as he's accused of a carnal knowledge as a teacher of a girl aged over 10 and under 17 years of age. The 74-year-old had been given frequent breaks during the trial due to his health issues and his older age. I don't fucking care. Piss yourself as far as I'm concerned. He was jailed in 2022 for murdering his wife, Lynette, in January of 1982, with a judge finding he was motivated by a desire to pursue an unfettered relationship with one of his students. Okay, if you guys don't know this story, I do know this story, so I just assumed that you guys would also know this story. But this guy was a football player, and he had a beautiful wife. He moved in a student and babysitter into his home, and then his wife died under very suspicious circumstances. He disappeared with this girl and reappeared later, obviously. And yeah, long story short, basically, it's been speculated that he killed his wife, and they proved it recently. So yeah. Public Defender Claire Weasley said that the New South Wales District Court need to restrict the media so that they can avoid that contamination during trial. I mean, considering that I am a crime buff and I love my true crime, I know who he is and I know what he's done, but I highly doubt that anyone else would know what was going on, especially since, like I said, I only know it because I am a crime buff and I love knowing about these crime stuff. It's not a morbid curiosity for me. It is I have really bad anxiety, and I like to remind myself that the scum of the world is out there, and my paranoia, if you will, is warranted. That just because I'm paranoid doesn't mean I'm wrong. So that's why I'm always interested in all of this kind of stuff. Plus, it makes for really good behavioral research. If you want to know stuff about things, about people and why they act the way they act and, you know, why they do the way they do, then it's really interesting. And if you're a writer, because I am, then you like to know if the story that you were writing is plausible, right? So anyway, they have a general apprehension about it. The judge didn't make any specific orders, noting that he didn't think the evidence was at risk, which I agree. I also, like I just said, I don't think it is. But anyway, what would I know? I'm just a girl. Ha ha ha. But yeah, 3. I'll do 4 now. I think we can safely. It's me deciding what I want to do. Anyway, so he appeared in his prison green, sitting in the dock for the first day of the judge alone trial. Prosecutors will open their case against him on Monday afternoon. So yeah, sucker. I hope he gets convicted. 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 What else do I want to read? So parents are woken up after their son's involved in a fatal brawl on their doorstep. So sad. So the parents of Queensland teenager have testified that they were woken up in the aftermath of their son's alleged fatal stabbing. So horrible, guys. So horrible. Just meters from their front door. So Brian Stewart was aged just 16 when his heart was pierced by a 12-centimeter steak knife on January 20 last year, so 2022, outside of his family's home on the Sunshine Coast. The male, aged under 18 years at the time, had allegedly incident who could not be identified for legal reasons, pled not guilty to the murder of the boy in the Brisbane Supreme Court on Monday. Ridiculous. He died so close to home, guys. So close to home. Crown Prosecutor Rebecca Marks said that the defendant attacked Balin out of jealousy because he was spending time with the teenager's ex-girlfriend. Oh, it's not the end of the world. Jesus. He stabbed Balin with a purposeful motivation in one of the most vulnerable areas of the human body, and immediately before he did so said, "I want to kill you." Balin's mother, Carrie Lynn, and father, Michael, gave evidence on the first day of the trial. Carrie Lynn said on the evening of the 20th of January, Balin and some friends, including a girl who he had been in a relationship for a few years ago, who had broken up with the defendant about 6 months beforehand, were hanging out at the home before going to a park. So basically, Balin had dated her first about, 3 years ago, but they're teenagers, so it was like, one of those puppy love kind of situations. And then she dated the defendant. And then when they broke up, she went and hung out with Balin again, and obviously that seemed to be a problem with the defendant. So the group of teenagers returned at about 10:30 p.m. and Carrie Lynn said that she told them to keep the noise down before she went to bed. Typical mum. I went to sleep, and the next thing I knew, I heard the defendant's ex-girlfriend banging on my window and saying, come outside, Carrie Lynn said. Carrie Lynn said that she ran out the front door when the girl told her that Balin had been stabbed and found him unconscious, with the defendant saying, I'm sorry, I can't believe I did that. I called the ambulance and said that my son had been stabbed, she said. Balin was pronounced dead at 11:50 p.m. by his parents. After his parents and neighbours and police and paramedics attempted to revive him. So obviously they must have removed the knife. Under cross-examination from barrister Charlotte Smith, Carrie Lynn said that it was possible that defendant had said, I didn't mean to do it. Michael testified he was initially less worried after looking at his son's chest wound, which was only like 1 centimetre or 2 centimetres wide. There was not a lot of blood, and I didn't look like it was that bad at first. I later learned that was because he was hit directly in his heart. The jury later showed a video of the police conversation with the girl who had been romantically involved with Balin and the defendant. The girl, who cannot be named for legal reasons because she's underage, said she and Balin decided to make and send provocative videos. There we go. Which suggested they had resumed their relationship to the defendant, but they hadn't. The girl said the defendant punched Balin, pulling out a knife, and said he was going to kill him. Balin then fell to the floor, and I didn't know that he stabbed him, so I was super confused, the girl said. So she thought he just punched him, but actually punched him with a knife. And he died. So I don't know if he got any kind of... the trial is still ongoing. So I'll try and get you guys updates on that. Okie dokie. So a man has been arrested after a Sydney woman's body was found and he remains in custody. So a man accused of assault, stalking and choking will remain in custody for now as police found the body of a woman in her Western Sydney's apartment. So Danny Zayek was arrested for Tatiana Decorat's body was found in a Liverpool unit block on Saturday night, nearly a day after an anonymous 000 phone call to police alleged domestic violence dispute. The 28-year-old had been charged with 18 separate counts, including assault, stalking, choking without consent, and contravening an apprehensive violence order. So in other words, going against an ABO. He has not been charged over her death yet. That's a yet, though. So the Assistant Commissioner, Stuart Smith, said that further charges cannot be ruled out. So I'd say he will be charged in the days to come. But at the moment, he has not been charged with her murder. So police had traced the midnight call to the unit block but couldn't find the apartment where the incident had occurred when they arrived at 3 a.m. The distress caller did not specify her address, but about 8 p.m. on Saturday, police were called back to the Liverpool unit blocks when they found the 34-year-old's body. Inquiries into who had made the phone call throughout the Saturday, police had said. They are making those. The 20-hour gap between the anonymous 000 and the discovery of her body have concerned the New South Wales Premier that he didn't react in a knee-jerk fashion, which is fair. Senior police were now reviewing the deeply traumatic incident and needed time and space to conduct their inquiries, and I agree. They do, because they needed to figure out who rang the 000 and why they didn't go floor to floor, room to room, trying to figure out who had rang. Because obviously there could be a big difference between, say, that and she might have already been dead, but she might have been able to be saved. I don't know. It's understandable that the public is very worried about this traumatic incident, which is true. We need to make sure that the police have got a chance to do their inquiries so that they can announce what charges, if any, they need to be made and what changes need to be made. I want to make sure that we get to the bottom of it. So Zayek, which is the guy, was arrested at the Liverpool unit block and appeared at Liverpool local court on Monday. He did not apply for bail on Monday. He wouldn't have been granted it anyway. And he will be scheduled to be reviewed for bail on June 2nd. So I'd say they're giving that long period so they can get some time to get some evidence together, I suppose, and figure out what the fuck happened. So the local police are working with the homicide squad under Strike Force Mediana to investigate her death. And what I usually say at the end of these is if you have any domestic violence problems in your home or you know of anyone who might need help, please call Lifeline on 1311 14, Beyond Blue at 1300 22 4636, or the Domestic Violence Service 1-800-RESPECT, which is 1-800-737-732. And if you're in immediate danger, call 000. Tell them where you are. Make that be the first thing that comes out of your mouth. Tell them exactly where you are. Because if they can trace the phone call back, at least they'll be able to figure out where you are and help you if they can. I mean, they'll help you no matter what, but yeah. Okie dokie. Alrighty, I think I'll do one more story and then call it a day and do my Missing Monday story. Okay, so a man was arrested after a 6-hour siege in Sydney's southwest. So a police siege of a Sydney's southwest has ended after about 6 hours. So officers were called to a home in Perrywood at 11 p.m. It's believed the call was in relation to a domestic violence incident, and at least 20 police officers were on the scene, including specialists, tactical officers, and negotiators, alongside ambulances and paramedics, which doesn't surprise me that they went this far, because lately there has been a lot of stabbings and a lot of police shootings because people are going a little bit frickin' crazy. I don't know what's happening with the world, but everyone's just gone nuts. Everyone's gone batshit crazy. So just before 5 a.m., the tactical officers kicked down the door of the home and arrested a 39-year-old man. It's understood that his arrest was a peaceful one, even though they kicked down the door, and he doesn't live on the property. A woman was also inside, but no injuries have yet to be reported. And again, if you are part of someone or part of a family that has a lot of family violence in it, then there's also another phone number you can call, which is, like I said, it's that 1-800-737-732 or 1-800-RESPECT. But it is part of the National Sexual Assault Domestic Family Violence Counselling Services. So if you need those kind of services, like I said, just ring 1-800-RESPECT and they can set you up with that kind of stuff. There is help out there. And if you are staying with someone just because of your animals or because of the children, then there are other avenues you can take as well, like temporary foster care for animals and stuff like that. So like I said, don't think you're alone. You are not alone. There are people out here who love you and who will help you as much as they can. I'll do another really quick one before I pack up for today. So a woman is dead. A man and child are in hospital after a stabbing in Melbourne's southeast. So a woman is dead and a man and child have been taken to hospital, like I said, after a stabbing in Melbourne's northeast. Police understand that there was an altercation between the woman and man in the Cassives Gardens, a street of Endeavour Hills, at 7:30 a.m. The woman was declared dead shortly afterwards. The man has been taken to Alfred Hospital under police guard with serious upper body injuries. A child has also been taken to Monash Medical Centre in a stable condition. Police have said it's believed that the man and woman were known to each other and having some sort of altercation. And they are not looking for anyone else over the incident, so they think it was a domestic incident. Anyone who witnessed the incident or has any CCTV footage around about that area, you would know if you were close to this, because there would have been police and everything there, ambulances and everything. You're urged to contact the police, please, and give them any kind of footage that you have. I mean, even if you're just driving past and you have dash cam footage of, like, I don't know, anything. Any little bit of information helps. Okie dokie. So I think that's it. I think that's it today. I'm done. I'm done. This top will look a little bit like, I'm trying to attach the bubbas to the base. And it will look like this, and it will be beautiful. It will be beautiful. Okay, I will see you guys tomorrow. Have a wonderful day. Thank you. Bye.